Bill Gates, George Soros, and Jeff Zuckerberg. You may have already heard of these billionaires who fund left-wing extremist causes in the United States. However, were you aware that there exists a more powerful dark money network that finances radical political and cultural changes with even greater funds? Well, here to explain is president of the Capital Research Center, Scott Walter. Scott is author of the new book, Arabella, the dark money network of leftist billionaires secretly transforming America. Scott, it's a pleasure talking with you again. So tell us, what is Arabella and why is it so secretive?
Let me take the second question first. It's secretive because the mainstream media doesn't do a very good job of pointing out that the left is the party of the rich, the left is the party of billionaires. They just won't do their proper work of exposing things on the left to anything like the degree they expose things on the conservative side. And then as for what Arabella is, picture a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, you have Arabella Advisors. That's a for-profit consulting firm, PR firm, Beltway Bandit, they call them in D.C. It creates and operates the rest of the pyramid. In the middle of the pyramid, you have half a dozen nonprofits of different legal types, and that's where the money goes from the billionaires. They write checks to those places. And then at the base of the pyramid, you have what you see, what the ordinary American sees, and that is hundreds and hundreds of fake groups. Opportunity Wisconsin and Secure Michigan Elections, Floridians for a Fair Shake, things like that. They're meant to look like grassroots advocacy groups, right? Your neighbors. In fact, they're just an accounting code and a website in a D.C. office.
And one way Arabella worked to affect politics was during the Supreme Court nomination of Justice Kavanaugh and a group called Demand Justice. So tell us about Demand Justice. Why was it so hard to discover who funded them, and how did they try to influence the Senate confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh and I guess also Amy Coney Barrett?
Yes, they were set up just before Brett Kavanaugh's nomination. And in fact, literally just a couple of months before, the fellow who was creating this, one of these fake groups at the base of the pyramid, he went and made a pitch to George Soros and a bunch of other billionaires and centimillionaires that come together twice a year for a gathering called the Democracy Alliance. And he pitched his idea that we're going to create a group that will attack every one of the judicial nominations this administration makes. And he got a couple $1 million from Soros to get off the ground. The check was written to one of Arabella's mid-level nonprofits, the 1630 Fund, and bang, you immediately have this group that is organizing all of the left-wing groups to attack any judicial nominee. And as it happened, Kavanaugh gets nominated shortly after all this got started.
Well, in Chapter 5, you expose billionaire Warren Buffett's longtime support and funding of abortion and the groups that promote it. So tell us what you found.
Sure. Most Americans think of Warren Buffett as this, avuncular, nice old guy who's really good at picking stocks and companies. But sadly, he's also a billionaire who has put millions upon millions into one of those mid-level nonprofits at Arabella, the Hopewell Fund. And through it, he is, in fact, the biggest single advocate in America for the whole abortion agenda.
And you say that he's probably responsible for millions of aborted babies. What's the truth there?
Well, yes, and we certainly know that Hopewell has funded gruesome experiments in the third world. Because, of course, they don't just want poor people in America aborting their children. They also don't want people in the third world having children.
Well, what about politically? What about Donald Trump? What have you discovered about big money, Arabella's involvement in funding the prosecutors bringing charges against the former president? Is there any connection there?
There are numerous groups that got set up in the Arabella empire with the sole purpose of trying to bring down the Trump administration. One of their methods was, FOIA requests, where you're requesting official records. Well, that, of course, is a legitimate thing to do, but they purposefully set up to send thousands of such requests in hopes of completely hamstringing entire federal departments' ability to function.
how about the big money funding of election changes? I'm thinking last minute non-legislative maneuvers like we saw in states in 2020 and 2022, also possible influences through social media, other efforts. What did you find, and what should we look for this election year?
Well, one of the more shocking things about Arabella is everyone will remember in 2020 you had the so-called Zuck Bucks. That was around $420 million from Zuckerberg that went into two charities, quote unquote, that then gave the money out to private election offices, very disproportionately in jurisdictions that Biden would win and needed big numbers, vote numbers out of. People tried to claim Zuckerberg was just helping election officials conduct election during COVID, but nobody pretends Arabella is anything other than a Democrat powerhouse. So if they were putting tens of millions of dollars into the same operation, it was absolutely a partisan operation. Now, sadly, they are still working with that same charity to this very day through a couple of their fake groups, the Institute for Responsive Government and the Center for Secure and Modern Elections. So they're still trying to manipulate your local government election offices.
Okay, we'll have to keep an eye out for that. There's plenty more in the book Arabella, the dark money network of leftist billionaires secretly transforming America. Scott Walter, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.